All wars are eventually lost to history. Physical records are destroyed, and no oral tradition lasts forever. But some wars seem to fade in our minds more quickly. Quickly enough to be called the Forgotten War by Americans. The post-World War II era was dominated by ideological conflict between the capitalist United States of America and the Communist Union of Socialist Soviet Republics. Very few places on Earth were free from choosing either capitalism or communism. The sheer scope of the Cold War is why its extension to a single peninsula, the Korean Peninsula, is a blip in the American conscience. Yet, the United States of America was one of the major participants in the Korean War and has molded generations of Koreans, leaving tens of thousands of veterans and their loved ones on both sides. It has been decades now since the Korean War began in 1950, and only 4% of Korean War veterans are alive today. One such veteran is United States Navy Captain Elmer Royce Williams, who often goes by just Royce Williams. Captain Williams, now 99 years old, served in the U.S. Navy as a naval aviator during the Korean War. He is most famous for his solo dogfight between 7 Mikoyan Guervish MiG-15s, one of the longest and most impressive dogfights in aviation history. On May 18, 2024, we were honored with the opportunity to interview Captain Williams.
I am Royce Williams. I'm 99 years old. I participated in the World War II, Korea and Vietnam wars. I'm long since retired, and I'm in my home, and I'm pleased to participate in your program. Well, when we were on top in clear air, no clouds, I looked in the direction that they advised that the bogies were coming from, and sure enough, there were 7 contrails, all in of one formation, headed directly at us at extreme altitude. There were 4 MiGs coming in directly at me at my 10 o'clock position. That's like a clock and almost 10. And they were all shooting. And I reported that to my controllers, and they said, do not engage. But there wasn't any way I could avoid it. We were engaged, and they had a whole lot of airplanes, and if I tried to turn and run, they had better aircraft, and they would have been all over me and shot me down. But I turned abruptly and ended up on their last airplane, we call tail end Charlie, and tracked him with my gun firing equipment, and with a short burst, actually shot him down. He started smoking and dropping down from altitude, and my wingman left me and followed this airplane going down. So I was alone now with 6 MiGs, and they're all determined to get rid of me. And they got well above me, a couple thousand feet, and turned and came back at me. And I intended to shoot at or try the one that had just lost his wingman, so he was all by himself. But he was in the clouds, and I didn't see him when I looked over, and I saw the other 2 coming at me, and they were shooting. So I turned into them, and the lead airplane became my target, and this had to happen pretty fast because we're flying at good speeds, so we're separating and coming back together fast. So I got the solution and fired my guns at him, and I don't know what happened, but he stopped firing and turned away, and I looked at his wingman, and he was now coming right at me and shooting. So I went over, taking him as a target, and fired a short burst, and it must have killed it because the airplane didn't maneuver at all. He stopped shooting, and he just slid directly underneath me. But I still got a lot of the other three joined as individuals, and they would do the normal fighter attack to get above me and then come on in on my tail and fire at me. But one at a time, but it was continuous where there was always somebody behind me. The fight became pretty standard, except that normally fighter engagements last maybe a few minutes, sometimes just seconds. But this went on for 35 minutes. So they all got a chance to shoot at me. Normally they did the right thing, and when they were through shooting at me and I wasn't the target anymore, they would climb directly and be safe. I couldn't keep with them, but there was another guy right behind him. Well, occasionally they made little mistakes, and I capitalized on that. One of them didn't get up in time, and I was able to aim at him as he went over, fired in close, and the airplane started coming apart and burning, and I had to maneuver hard to avoid from crashing into him. I didn't have time to track him to see what happened to him. As soon as I did that, I had to preserve myself, and there's somebody right behind me shooting again. Well, one of them got it around to where I was able to get him before he used his capability to not to get away from me, and I hit him, and he started smoking and losing speed and altitude and going down, and I tracked him for a while, and I was going to do some more shooting, but I found I was out of ammunition, and I had spent too much time just following this guy, which now made me a target easy for them to come right in behind me. I was not concentrating on defending myself, but on shooting down the guy ahead of me. Mistake. When I noticed that and out of ammunition, I turned very hard, and the big right on my tail hit me and did a lot of damage to my airplane. Well, I knew the bottoms of the clouds, so I proceeded to go back to the ship and slowly lose altitude to where I got into the clear under the clouds. About the time I arrived at the task force, my commanding officer had taken off with the flight of four to relieve me in the fight. We're really too late, but when he got on top of the clouds, he saw two MiGs heading back toward Vladivostok, and the fight was over. I didn't know a whole lot to say. I had the knowledge of what happened to the people I shot at. I saw that they were in trouble, but I didn't know if they made it back to their base or what. But we have a book written by a military historian from Russia that says of the seven, only one got back. But since he was under pressure, he went in and made a report when he came back. He said, "This is it." And so he said the report he made, which was Bacon, wasn't true at all. And they gave me credit for shooting down one MiG and probably another. Amazing. Um, Following this incident, back in the United States, they were having a presidential election. And President Eisenhower, who was a general who ran the war in Europe in World War II, was selected to be the president. He said if selected, he would go to Korea and see really what's going on and take charge. Well, he heard about my story and he said, I want to see that pilot. So I'm ordered to go to Busan, Korea, and meet with Admiral Clark, who ran the show, and meet with the president and his large crowd of 4- and 5-star admirals and generals, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Secretary of Defense, ambassadors. And I imagine all of them knew pretty much what happened. So they didn't ask me, and I couldn't tell them. I didn't know where I was with trying to discuss this with the president. But I'm sure there wasn't anything I could tell them they didn't already know. So he didn't press me on that matter. We just had a very friendly conversation. Well, that incident was the controlling factor for a while about secrecy, but it has since then been cleared to where, though there's nobody interested anymore, they can talk about it. For a long time, there wasn't a whole lot said, but little by little, and now currently the status of the gloves are off or whatever, that I'm cleared to talk about it. And if anybody's interested, for a long time they weren't, it was just forgotten. And so it kind of renewed interest when they could learn about this. And because of that, this year especially, I've been very pleased to have had a lot of contact with Koreans from Korea. Can't be patriotic Americans. We're friends with South Korea, and in our dealings with other countries, this kind of puts them first class, and we're proud of it, and it's been very positive for South Korea and for us too. But it's a good relationship and friendly.
On January 20th, 2023, Royce Williams received the Navy Cross, one of the highest honors awarded by the U.S. Navy. We are forever grateful for his service in defending both the United States and South Korea. After the end of the Korean War in 1953, the U.S. and the new Republic of Korea formed the U.S. ROK Alliance in hopes of retaining peace and defense in the Pacific region. It is thanks to this alliance that Korea has grown a major economic and political presence globally. Thank you, audience, for listening and learning about the Korean War as told by Royce Williams. His experience is one of countless others that make the forgotten war not so forgotten.